Hey, how's it going? This is Kayaz, and in this video, I'm going to be talking about the sun. So, I recently spoke about the moon, and the moon is the ruler of the darkness, while the sun is the ruler of the light. So, this is how they go hand in hand. One is male and one is female. So, both of these are the two things that are governing the world and everything in it. And the moon and the sun are two components of our time, because this is how our watches have two main hands. There's the hour hand, and then there's the minute hand, and then there's the third one, the second hand. So the second hand is the third one, which is funny. But our watches are like this, and these are the things or the components that govern our time, because every day is a series of hours, and every night is also a series of hours. And every hour is a series of minutes, every minute is a series of seconds. So all of these are governed by the two analogs in the sky, which is the sun and the moon, which is why the sundial was the first watch or the first measurement of time. So now we measure time in different ways. From the moon, we get the night, and from the night we get the day, from the day we get the week, from the week we get the month, and every weekday is actually given the name of a planet or a star, because Monday is moon day, Sunday is the sun day, and Tuesday is Mars day, Wednesday is Mercury day, Thursday is Jupiter day, Friday is Venus day, Saturday is Saturn day, and Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. All of these are like that. And this also goes in the same relation with the months. The months are named after gods and goddesses, like Janus is the January. And Janus is the two-faced god who has a face in his back and a face facing forward. So he is the god of new beginnings. And then we have February, which is the calibration, Febrius. And then we have March, April, May. March is actually Mars, and June is Juna Moneta, the money god or the monster god, the moon goddess. And July is actually Julius Caesar. August is Augustus, and then the rest of the months are actually numbers: September, October, November, December. December is supposed to be 10 because that's a decimal or decade. Deci is 10, but it's the 12th month because they added Julius and Augustus, which were Roman emperors, into the calendar because they created the times that we now have. So all the things are from Rome. So, so given that we now have the sun, and in the Roman language, the Roman language is actually Latin. In the Roman language, they actually say the sun is Sol, which is Sol, Sol Invictus. This is what the sun is, and this is what it's still called. And from this we get solar energy. So all of the solar energy that we get, which powers our solar plexus, which powers our whole body, our whole essence, is powered by the sun. So we're solar powered people. We're actually plants. This is why we're told be fruitful and multiply, because plants have fruit and they multiply like fruit. So we have the same aspects in us that we're just plants. We just grow like plants. Our body actually just looks like a plant, and we just grow up like a seed. So this seed is planted into a woman. The woman is fertile, and then she births this person. But everyone comes from the ground in the first place. So everything in the earth comes from the ground. Everything in the earth comes from the ground. Everything in the earth comes from the ground. So since everything is created through the mind of the person who comes from the ground, everything is that. But even though primarily everything we see, be it metal, steel, bricks, houses, all of these things are from the ground. So the ground is fed by the sun. So everything in turn comes from the sun, because through the rays of the sun we get the ability to see everything that is around us. So the sun is very powerful. The sun is very reliable. The sun is always there. The sun is positive. The sun gives us life. The sun gives us growth. We see everything through the sun, and through the sun we have light, and through the light we have knowledge, because light and dark is knowledge and ignorance. So in the night, we have ignorance of what is around us because we can't see. But in the day, during the day, we can see everything. So we have so much knowledge. This is why we work during the day. Usually, in general, we work during the day. But then we basically work day and night. But during the day, there's a different aspect of us that is being used, and that is at work. This is due to our circadian rhythm, which is based on our glands in our body, which govern how we actually relate to the world, because our bodies are actually governed by the cycles of the moon and the sun, because the glands that are excreted or that are flowing through our body are different during the night and different during the day because of the influence of the planets. So the influence of the planets has always been a part of us and will always be, because of the sun. That's how we wake up. That is why we wake up, and that's why the caged bird sings, because the sun is there. So when we have the sun and the moon, what we have are two opposites, and these two are always the same thing. These are the same thing because the moon is a reflection of the sun. So when we're talking about the moon, we were speaking of the moon being called, originally the name of the moon god was called Sin, S-I-N. So from this Sin is where everything in this world came. So this Sin, the moon god, was called Sin because Sin is the creator of all things, because we got the knowledge of good and evil, and through this we're able to use good and evil, and through this we have been able to sin. Without this knowledge of darkness, the darker side of life, like the dark force, like the Sith, we were not able to sin, because we just had the light, we just had knowledge, we just had brilliance, resplendence. But then through this darkness, we had this sin. So this sin is what caused everything to be created in our civilization, or what we call civilization. On the other hand, when we look at the sun, what we have is actually light. And this light is always good. So when we look at the yin-yang symbol, what we have is the white and the black. So the black is the moon, the white is the sun. Okay, this is yin-yang, this is the balance of both. So through this balance, we have the darkness being the moon and the light being the sun. Okay, so when we are balancing the two, we see that there's a little bit of the seed of both in either one. Okay, but then when we have the moon, we have the darkness. Okay, and then when we have the sun, we have the light, and we have positive and negative. So how we regard this world is that the dark is negative and the light is positive. So the sun is good, the sun always shines, the sun gives us our light. And the moon is negative, it's dark, and it's feminine as well. And in the creation stories, consistently the darkness or the evening has always come through Eve. So Eve is the evening, because Eve evened everything out. So this is the evening that comes, and the day is Adam, which is adamant, So adamantly, the sun will always rise. Unlike the moon, sometimes the moon disappears. Sometimes the moon is nowhere to be seen. You can't see the moon every day. And the moon is so moody. It has moody. It has so many different cycles. Like, it's so tricky. Sometimes you don't see it, sometimes you see it. So you really have to know it intimately. It's so intricate. Even though it's a reflection of the sun, it doesn't always reflect the sun. Sometimes the moon rises with the sun. Like, I was looking at the sky yesterday, and the moon was there, like just actually orbiting during the day. I'm like, whoa, what is this? But then, like, the moon was there in the sky, and I'm sure there's a scientific explanation for all of this. There's a scientific explanation why we don't always see the moon, even though the moon is always there, but sometimes we don't see it. Like, you literally don't see it. So is it because it's hidden by the clouds? No, it's not hidden by the clouds, because you can see that the sky is clear. You can see all of the stars in the sky, but you can't see the moon. The moon is so elusive. The moon is an illusion. The moon is so different. So the way that Adam, or Odd, or Soul, Odd is one, Soul, S-O-L, or Soul, S-O-L-E. the way that Adam was the sole human being, the only human being, and the way that Adam was adamant is the exact way that the moon is the opposite. The moon is a reflection of that. So it's mono, but it's soul because it's using the solar energy, right? Basically, it's a reflection of the sun. So it is on its own, but it is not of its own. This is how Eve is taken out of the body of Adam to be her own person, but then she came out of the person. So this is how you get the yin yang symbol that there's this huge circle and there's a black dot in the white one and there's a white dot in the black one. This is the rib that is taken out and put there. So there's a little of a lot and a lot of a little. So this is the moon. And the sun is also that, but in the exact opposite way. How the moon sometimes disappears, the sun will always rise. If the sun does not rise, that would be a catastrophe. That would be the worst thing that could happen. I know that there's some places in the world that the sun doesn't shine, but then that is how we actually know it, because they know the cycle of the sun. It's so adamant. It is always like that. It is the same way that the moon is so round. Sometimes it's like small, sometimes it's big, sometimes it's crescent, sometimes it's half, sometimes it's 3/4, sometimes it waxes, sometimes it wanes. It's so tricky. The moon is so tricky, so intricate, and it has all of these cycles that affect different aspects of our lives. Because remember, this is how our times are judged, and this is how our life is. But then the sun is always there. Like if we only had the sun, we wouldn't have any months. Because the sun will just be there, like, oh yeah, the sun is there, oh yeah, the sun is there. And then we just have all of this awareness of all of our surroundings. The sun gives us consciousness, the moon gives us unconsciousness, because we sleep during the night and we're awake during the day. And sometimes the moon is just disappear. Like the moon isn't there. Where does it go? Where does it go? It's somewhere there in the sky, but you don't see it. Somewhere there, but you don't see it. But the sun will always rise, so it's always dependable. It's always there, so you can put your trust in the sun. But in the moon, on the other hand, it has a different energy. So this is where we get the power of the sun. And when you look at all of this, you see that in the Garden of Eden, the devil tricked the woman, or the devil tricked the moon. The devil did not trick the adamant son, Adam, because he's so adamant he was not going to budge. So the moon is so creative. So it's so divisive because it sometimes changes, it shape shifts, like it actually does shape shift. So in the African creation story, the first person is actually a moon, and the first person comes from the water. So the moon is linked with water. The moon is actually water. It's just like that. Just the same way that the water is translucent, the moon is also translucent. So the moon is that lucid aspect of the universe, while the sun is the adamant, the dominant aspect of the universe. So the moon is like a dream, because you dream while the moon is somewhere, while the sun is reality, because you see reality while the sun is there. So people who are like too deep in their minds, or who have no control over these lucid powers of the mind, are called lunatics, because this is the lunar effect. Because this is how we get the stories of werewolves and stuff like that, and this is the power of the moon. This gives us this lucid ability, and this is an aspect of the darkness. And we have this other aspect of the light, which gives us all knowledge, all righteousness, the right way, right angles. Like the sun just has these rays of light that are just straight rays of light, and that's just it. There's no other way. Like it doesn't bend, it just doesn't curve. But the moon, on the other hand, has this gentle glow. It's round, it's so bouncy, you know? So all of these are the different energies that these planets give us, and the different understanding that we get through them. So the sun gives us all of our light, and the moon, the moon takes away that light. The moon gives us the darkness, but it rules in this darkness. And actually, sometimes there's a full moon, sometimes there isn't. So sometimes it gives us light, sometimes it doesn't. So the moon is so powerful, so sacred, and the sun is so powerful and so sacred. And all of these were created by God to give us the measurement of time. So all of these are aspects of how we live in this world, and we're supposed to understand them because they're like our tools. The same way that they used a sundial as a tool, the sun is a tool, the moon is a tool. So you have to understand this and know that the power of the universe is in all things created by the Creator. So even a tree can give you so much information, especially trees, because we're trees and our life began on a tree. Our life was given, like Jesus died on a tree. Trees are so important, and now we're just cutting them down like we don't care about them. But all of this is interesting, and all of this is very important. So the sun is strong, the moon is weak. So all of this is to say that because the sun is strong, the sun has some weaknesses. Because the moon is weak, the moon has some strengths. So you always have to realize that in all of these universal laws, there's always a paradox. So the paradox is in parallel or in parables. So this is why Jesus said that I'm going to only speak to people in parables so that they can hear but they won't hear, so that they can see and they won't see. And then I'm like, what? Dude, like, Jesus, weren't you supposed to come and just tell everyone like plainly like, hey, here's the kingdom of God and here's a ladder, climb. But then it doesn't work that way. It does not work that way. It's all about precept on precept. It's all about knowledge on top of knowledge. So you have to always connect the dots and always realize that everything in this world is created so that we can reveal. It is the glory of God to hide things. It is the glory of kings to reveal things. So the sun has so much information in it, and it absorbs everything. Like the moon absorbs, the sun gives. So the sun is positive, the moon is negative. And through this, we see everything through the darkness. This is the paradox again, that the sun needs the darkness because everything in existence has this aspect that is called the melanin or the darkness. This is why everyone's eye has the darkest part, which is where everything is absorbed. So through this dark part, we're able to see everything. And again, this is where the yin yang symbol comes in, that the white part has the black part has the white. So everything has this paradox. Everything is parallel, and this is how everything is reconciled, and this is the fourth dimension. So freaking interesting, and ultimately like involving, like everything in this world is through the fourth dimension and through how we understand what is beyond our bodies, what is beyond our minds, what is beyond this time and space, which is all really interesting stuff. So yeah, this was about the sun, and I really thank you for taking the time to watch this, and I hope that this lands well with you, and I'll see you soon.